I'm Benas Mountain these days, and I'm alone in my place. But Hashem, I have a nice house, a nice apartment, everything. Maybe it's not so, how do you say, Mesudar, but, well, I'm happy.
Maybe it's not Mesudar.
Yeah, because in my standards, it's pretty good, but let's say, according to some people's standards, it's a mess. Okay. But I've been sitting and learning and sometimes going to my children, and Baruch Hashem, life is wonderful. Now, I want to talk about something that I was thinking. Why did I say I'm living alone? Because it gives me a lot of time to think. Now, I want to say something about the Ethiopian so-called Jews.
Yes.
Now, why am I bringing it up?
It's a Kalam, Ethiopia.
That's a Tam Komus. That, I'm going to call it a Tam Komus. Okay, the producer already was Megala, but leave it like that. You know, what's it called? The Zanzer Rov, they wrote when he wrote against the machine masters, they wrote that he has a Tam Komus. I think he also said what his reason was, but he also said he has a Tam Komus. There are also other stories we've done, and they said a hidden reason, but I also have a reason that I talk against the Ethiopians. Now, it was a question that came up around 30 years ago when Medinas Yisrael decided, let's do a new thing, let's bring Ethiopians to our country. We didn't do enough chesed, you understand? We didn't help people enough. Let's go out to Africa and help the Ethiopians, and we'll decide that they're Jewish. And we'll bring them down to Israel. Well, I don't really believe that that's why they brought them. This must be a Tam Komus. And when you read certain books, you see there's somebody, John Luftus, that he writes in the Ami magazine. He writes about, he's, I don't know what you call him, analyst or maybe something. He worked for the CIA, he knows a lot of things. You see that you read the newspapers, that's not the whole story. There's a lot deep underneath why people do things, why governments do things. What you read in the newspapers is only the surface of the surface. And L'Shem Shomayim, there's very few people.
What you're saying is life is as deep as the Torah.
Where do you see that in
The life is what's going on in the world. That's life. What they bring Ethiopians. And the Torah, we know the Torah is very good.
We know, but not as deep. Okay, good. No, but China's, you could say that because really everything is Torah. And then everything is Torah. Okay, I don't know if you should say such a statement. Maybe, yeah, because the Gemara. Okay, I don't know. There's a Gemara here. I mentioned just the Gemara says that Hashem showed Yechezkel Hanavi a Megillah, and it was written Panim V'Ocha. Megillah was written Panim V'Ocha. Daf Chof Aleph in and what? And it was written Kinim V'Hege V'Hi. So Kinim means the suffering of the tzaddikim in this world. Hege means the schar v'olmav, and V'Hi means the suffering of the Rishonim in the next one. The Megillah was meant to be the Torah. Was Rashi? If you look in the Gemara, you'll see that it means Torah. And what part of the Torah? The suffering of the tzaddikim in this world and the schar in the next one. So you see the story that happens in this world, that's called Torah. I'm not going to be married, but that's what comes out in the Erev and Chofal. If anybody wants to understand better what I'm saying, they should call me up. Now, I'm saying, what was I saying? That
Ethiopians.
So I'm saying like these, that when you see things, this is a cloud gadol belife. When you read a newspaper, you have to always say to yourself, who says this is exactly the story? Now, what made me think about this, because I once heard a tape from Rabbi Beryl Wein, that he said that he had a Rebbe, Reb Mendel Kaplan, and when he first came to America, from Shanghai, they came with the Mir, so he didn't know English. So he said to the Bachrim, let's make a deal. You'll teach me English with a newspaper, and I'll teach you how to read a newspaper. So we'll use the newspaper for two things, my teaching and your teaching. You'll teach me English. So that was the story. Was just, he was a big person, a Mendel Kaplan. What I heard, I think I met him once. So I'm always wondering, what did he teach them that he didn't say? What did he teach them how to read a newspaper? So I'll teach on my own. There's a Gemara in Zvachim Daf Hey that they talked about Shalom Lishmo. Is it possible? Is it not possible? Said Eftach ano pischal anafshoy. There's kashas on the way they explained it. So I'll explain it myself. So I'm saying like this: how to read a newspaper. That in every article you read, you say who says. Maybe it's not exactly the way they're saying. That's how you read. Now, they brought the Ethiopians to Israel. So you think, ooh. So they make it sound like they were big tzaddikim. They brought Schwarzes that Nebuch, they're Schwarzes, and they're really Jews. So we have to have Rachmanis, and they brought them with a special mivtza.
Can't finish Aram? Oh, that's a different no.
Maybe.
No, I think that's the Taimin.
The Taimin, they called it a different. No. So, Mavada Ksamim, they called it Taimuni Ali. So anyway, Pasha, there are big pastors, you could say they wanted votes. But maybe there's other reasons. Maybe they wanted to mess up the Medina here. Why should they want to mess up the Medina? Go ask them. Anyway.
I'll tell you why they want to mess up the Medina. I said this many years ago. According to the Brisker Rab, they only made the Medina to shmat out people. Yeah. Now they started becoming a movement of Bali Chuvas. And so that's can't happen. So we have to bring it to Machazik, to Bashoyim, the Chilonim. And they tried their hardest to keep the Chilonim, the Ethiopians.
Maybe that explains also why they brought in the Russians.
Oh, is that war? And then now that most of the Russians are Jewish.
So the Gedolim discussed, are they Jewish?
And besides, the Russians are very smart people. They know how to work. Mm-hmm. They believe in the work ethic. And talk to a lot of the Russians, even the Chilonim I meet, I'm impressed with them. They seem like human beings. In my limited, world. Very limited. Okay. And Varda, she liked the Russians. Somebody was on her show, we won't mention who Varda is, but somebody made a sonus of the Russians, and she stood up for the Russians. They're fine people. May not be Jewish, but they know how to work.
Okay, good. Anyway, now, so the Gedolim talked, are they Jewish, are they not Jewish? So all the Gedolim besides one said that even if they might be Jewish, they need gerus. Without gerus, then we can't accept.
And even that one, his grandson.
One is Rav Ovadia Yosef is the one. Now, his grandson, what did he say?
His grandson says they forced him into it.
Yeah,
and if people want to hear watching this, I put up that clip from Rav Ovadia Yosef the Nechid, and you can watch it here. You can look it up, Rav Ovadia Yosef, on this, YOCC, and you'll find that the Ethiopians, Philosophy, whatever I wrote there, and you'll hear him, that they forced him to do it.
Yeah. Now, a lot of people are not going to like to hear those words they forced in.
If Yeshua would be saying it, or a caplan would be saying it. But it's Rabbi Vadi's own nechet.
His own grandson.
Grandson, nechet, yeah.
I don't know. To tell you the truth, I listened to that piece from the grandson. He seemed to go back and forth. You have to hear it good to get clear what he means. Because what I understood from his piece was that there are two types of Ethiopians. Two types. And some didn't mix with the Goyim and some did. They lived here, they lived there. But even those that didn't mix, what do we know? I just heard from Adam Gadol, from one of the Gedolei Ador.
No, some of them converted to Christianity 200 years ago. And that's what they're fighting to bring now. They have to renounce it and see what
But we're not talking about that right now. No, my whole talk here is about 30 years ago. What was that? How do you know they're Jewish? You bring a group of Schwarzes from Africa and you say they're Jewish. So Mavadia Yosef squeezed the head out.
Afterwards. At first he said they're not Jews, they need Gerut L'Chumra. Afterwards, when he became chief rabbi, he said they're Jews and they don't need any Gerut L'Chumra. And now the Nechet says they forced them.
Oh. So I don't know if you did the right thing to say that in public, what you just said.
His son said it. You can find it on my YouTube channel.
Oh, okay.
His grandson.
So, but this is what they say in the Radvaz. There's a tshuva from the Radvaz. The Radvaz was 400 years ago. Who knows if it stayed like that now? Maybe Schwarzes, all the other Schwarzes came and mixed with them. And I don't care that I used the word Schwarzes. I don't care. But maybe they came and mixed. How do you know? It's like my son, Yosef, he said that some people say that they're descendants of Rashi. So, yeah,
Rashi?
Yeah, some people in Europe used to say that they are descendants of Rashi. People on themselves.
Yeah.
So Yosef said, according to mathematics, most of European Jewry are descendants of Rashi.
Well, Yosef was Magzine a little bit. All of Ashkenazi Jewry is descended from Rashi.
Oh.
He didn't say enough, Yosef.
I mean, you're saying more than...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's in the Makorot.
Okay.
There's a book I have about DNA in Jews. I have a book by somebody in Information Torah. Continue.
So if so it's enough. But he said I'll be mathematics. If so...
definitely I'll
good,
be
Yeshua is also a producer, is also a mathematician, yeah. And my son is a physicist also. so I'm saying so, okay. So Rashi was how long ago? 1,000 years ago.
Yeah.
900. So this is 400 years. Enough that one shiksha got mixed into them that nowadays, who knows how many descendants there are. Now, okay. So Rav Vadia Yosef said what he said. Although everybody else said not like him. I don't know. And the word Gerus L'Chumra, I don't like it so much. I would say Gerus, period. Chumra sounds like, these are really Jews. We just want to make sure we'll do Gerus. I don't like that. They need Gerus, period. Now, I was thinking about this subject from a certain point of view. And I don't have a map over here, but I was thinking like this. I looked on the map. Why did I think this? First of all, because I live alone. Second of all, because I have my landlord, which lives downstairs from me, is a Taimani Jew. Now, he once said there were a lot of Amaratzim in Taimur. His grandfather was a Ben Torah, Talmud Chacham, and his father was also, Kama Ben Tur. He worked in the field, physical work, but he came home. His father, my father, Nahari, he came home from work, from digging, Mamish digging in the ground, and he chewed his gat, which is some kind of grass that they chew, and it gave him a boost, and he went to school and sat and learned for hours and hours. I remember him, he had long pants, whole thing, the whole generation. But he said, but his family, they're the elite. It's sort of, he didn't use that word, but that's what he sort of meant to say. But a lot of Emiratis, now I started looking at the map recently, I understand why. You know how far they were from the centers of Torah? Look, how does it go? You have Africa, then you have the sea. What's the sea called? The Red Sea?
Red Sea,
Maybe. It's a sea. And on the other side you have Saudi Arabia. And the bottom of Saudi Arabia is Tamar. It's pretty far from...
By the way, just to put in here, you left something left out. I don't know if you're going to mention it all. Some people claim, I put up 2 cassettes on this about Reisman and about Frand, about they're from the Queen of Sheba.
Who?
The Ethiopians. Yes, Mondomer cassette.
Okay. Yeah.
I am what I put up.
Okay. No. Okay, good. I want to bring out one point. No, I can't go into the whole sugya, I just want to say a certain point and let the listeners decide for themselves. Good, nobody's going to go marry Ethiopian anyway. I know somebody very close that married Ethiopian. But I'm just talking about the sugya. But I want to say one point about the Indian. The point is like this. You have Africa. In Africa you have Ethiopia. Then you have a sea. Then you have Saudi Arabia, which is very big. And the bottom of Saudi Arabia you have Tamar, which is very far from centers of Torah. And what do I mean centers of Torah? In Africa, I don't mean Europe, I mean in Africa, you have Morocco, there was Torah. There was once Torah. Tunisia, there was once Torah. And maybe Algeria,
Algeria, the Baba Salih, they would tell anybody that's going to go to Algeria for business, he has to give him a shavua or a promise, whatever it was, that he won't touch his beard. Algeria was the worst. Was the worst.
But it could be that 400 years ago they might have been the Tashbats, maybe.
I don't know.
I don't know, but okay, let's say there were 2 countries. There was Morocco and Tunisia.
I have family from Algeria. My sister, a certain lady, Sarah Khalimi, Hashem Yinkom Damav, is part of my family, extended family, and she's from Algeria.
Interesting. Yeah, she was that famous that she was killed in France by an Arab.
A Muslim.
Anyway, so my question is like this. Some Adam Gadol, one of the real Gedolei Adar said yesterday, in fact, that how could you can't eat grasshoppers and accept the Masoras of the Taimanim. The Taimanim have a tradition to eat grasshoppers. We can't accept their tradition because they came from Bais Rishon. They're there since the first Chorban. How does this Adam Gadol know exactly where it was?
We should mention his name.
His name is Moshe Levi.
Moshe Levi.
So
your brother-in-law.
Oh, it's my brother-in-law, yeah. So how does he know when you...
Ben Dod of the famous Baal Techeles, Rav Yitzhak Shlomo Zilberman. This is his cousin, who's very against it, of course.
Good. Okay, you bring in complicated issues here. So, I'm saying like this, but how does he know when do you measure? How do you measure? From where can you... I don't know.
But...
Because they didn't have the Talmud Bavli, because they came before the Talmud Bavli was...
Oh, the Taimanim did have the Talmud Bavli.
No, Say maybe that's his omek of his kavana, Moshe Levi, that the Temanim came to wherever.
No, they left in his mounted bite Rishon.
So they didn't have the, in that time when they came, they didn't have a Talmud Bavli to start the Masoras. So such a Masoras that doesn't start with the Talmud Bavli, maybe that's his Otzim Kavanos. So from there you can't take Masoras. And maybe he means something else. Who are we to understand the omek of his Kavanah? But, what was the end? They did have, later on, after the Talmud Bavli was written, they had it. They learned Gemara. They had Gemaras. And the Melech Shlomo wrote a Pirush on Mishnayos. And Kased, he brings the Gemaras. And he brings different Rishonim, different things. He writes in that Dhamma, I'm a Taimani, and we were cursed by Ezra because we didn't come up in the Bais Sheni. But we have weak seichels, but we'll try anyway.
We have weak seichels, he said that the Melech Shlomo.
That's what they said over from there.
I have to look at this.
I have to look it up inside. And he said, and then but we stopped at that. That's his greatness, that he wasn't Miyash. He tried. So I'm saying, so I'm asking, so my question is like this. It says, trying to understand what happened in history. So I'm asking a question. Ethiopia, which is much closer to those centers of Torah, they did not have the Talmud Bavli. I asked somebody that he's a Ben Torah, a Ethiopian mamish. I asked him, did you have the Talmud Bavli? No, we didn't have it. Did you have Chamisha Chumshei Torah? Yeah, we did have it. So I'm asking, why didn't they have it? So you'll say, because it's hard, it didn't reach them. It didn't reach them. What, they're gonna bring a whole shot across the Sahara Desert and bring them? What, in those days? Okay, it's hard.
I could have got it from the Teimanim.
It's hard. Some say, and to the Teimanim it wasn't hard to reach, that the Talmud Bavli should reach. It wasn't hard. I have an answer. My answer is like this. It says, Moshe Rabbeinu, before he died, he said, Kilosi shochach mizaro. It's in Parshas Vayelech. We'll soon get to it. The Torah will not be forgotten, mipizaro. And the Teimanim are zaro, they are. So the Torah reached them. How? I don't know. I don't have to. It would be interesting to know, but you don't have to know. Because Hashem saw to it that it should reach them. So it reached them. But the Ethiopians, it didn't reach because it's not Zaro. And it could be they were closer to the centers of Torah than the Teimanim, but it's closer, didn't help. Because I don't know, there's a Sahara Desert maybe in the middle. I don't know what there is. In those days it was too hard. And that's my answer. And I just want to look at the subject from that point of view, and I think I'm right. Now, I just remember, once a story, I was sitting at a bar mitzvah, it was a bar mitzvah, of Eli Lifshitz, our close friend, that he made a bar mitzvah for a son, for his only son. And I was sitting at a table with a few people, and somebody, that he looked, the way he was talking and the way he carried himself, he looked like an intelligent person. And he was talking about how he learns the Daf Yomi every day. And he has, what's it called, a tablet, or what is that, what it's called? A tablet, I think it's called, where the Gemara is. Yeah. He has the Gemara, he has that, and he can learn, and he can hear Perushim on the Gemara and everything. Well, on Shabbos, what's he going to do? This person was saying, so he said, I do Pesach Shabbos, I can't. You can't. Said, but they should look for some heter, they should look for a heter. Look what happened to the Arabs, he says. 800 years ago, in the time of the Rambam, they were the most intelligent people in the world. And they had writers and philosophers and mathematicians and doctors. But then printing came to the world. And they had some kind of a law, or part of their religion is not to print, not to use the printing press. So they didn't use it. So then all their chokhmah was lost.
Oh, that's interesting. I never knew that.
So this person said, they lost all their chokhmah, and they went down, and they became Arabs like we know them now. Now, I said, so we should also look for a heter, because someday it's going to come a day where there won't be any books. It's only going to be the tablets. What are we going to do then? I was still in my years when I was afraid to break out of my shell and talk out loud to people. So I just kept quiet. But I had an answer there on the spot. Nowadays, I think I broke out of that shell. Maybe I'll soon tell a story about a dentist that I said something to. So I said, my answer is like this. It says, we have a promise. So what are you afraid of? You intelligent person, what are you afraid of? You're asking our question from the Arabs. They don't have that havtacha, but we have that havtacha, so what are you worried about?
Well, Caplan, I want to take a little break now for a second.